Niamh Casey. I'm one of the authoring experts at Learnosity. There's my email if you'd like to contact me with any authoring questions, any follow-up from this webinar. I just want to mention as well, we will be having more authoring webinars. We'll have more specific ones around math, ELA, the activity editor. So if this is a very brief overview of the general steps you take to author from nothing to an assessment, and a more detailed webinars will be coming up. So just in this webinar, we're going to cover items, what they are and how to create them, questions and features, again, what they are in Learnosity and how we can create them. And we'll also do an overview of the different question types we have, and we'll author a question and also a feature in the Learnosity question editor. Then we'll look at creating tags and tagging items, and also we'll create an assessment at the end as well. And we're just going to use the Learnosity Author Site for this today. So what is an item? In Learnosity, it's a container that stores and displays at least one question, and it can also store and display additional assets. These could be images, passages of text, other features. It's important that you know as well that what an item stores is up to you. You can just have one or many features or questions inside an item, and you can also add features and questions inside an existing item or a brand new item as well, but they just must be inside an item. Items also have three statuses. They have unpublished, published and archived. So we'll take a look at that when we actually look at the author site in a minute, but basically an unpublished item status just means that that item is not finished, it's not ready to be put into an assessment. Whereas a published item is, it's been reviewed, it's totally finished, it's ready to go. And then an archived item is one that has been deleted. And then also the importance of items as well is that when we go to create an activity or an assessment, an activity is just the Learnosity term for an assessment, you'll need to add at least one item to the activity. So items store questions and features, and then an activity stores items. So a typical authoring workflow on the author site might be you create an empty item, then you add your questions or features, whatever you want, then you add your tags, and then you go and you create an activity. So we're just going to take a look at author.learnosity.com. So when you log into the author site, this is your landing page. You have an item bank here. You can see at the top you have a little navigation bar where you can go to your item bank. You can also go to your tags, your tag manager, and you can also go to your activity bank as well. You can also search your item bank by various parameters, the name of the item, questions or features within the item, and the item status, as we mentioned as well. And you can also search by tags, so all or some tags. And then down here we actually have our items. So this is quite a small item bank. There's only 9 items, but we can see the item references here at a glance. We can also see snippets from inside the items. We can see the question types and feature types that are inside the items. We can see when it was last modified, and if we hover, we can see who did that and when. And also this icon here, which is the indication of what the item status is. So green is always published and orange is always unpublished. There's also grey for archived. And then we can also see our tags. So most of these items just have 2 tags. If they had more, we could click on this and we could see a full list of the tags. Okay, so that's it. So we're going to just go and create an empty item now in here. So this is our empty item, our item editor. So at the top you can see again, you have an indication here what the item reference is, or what the item status is, I should say. And an item is always unpublished by default as well. So you can never accidentally add an unpublished item to an activity, because an activity just won't let you add an unpublished item. Then you have the item reference, so its unique name. So we're going to make a geography question in this. So we'll just do geography, Europe question. Okay, then we have a settings button at the top right here. And this, in here you can configure the layout. So we have multiple column options. 50/50 is quite a popular one. And we also have tabs that you can select. So if you want to have maybe 2 passages of text that a student could flick between and answer some questions, you could have those in tabs. You can show a vertical divider, which is a visible dividing line between your 2 columns. And you can also enable scrolling for long content here as well, which is good if you've got a small screen and you've got a long piece of text, for example. A little scroll bar will appear just around the container for that piece of text. Okay, so we'll do a 50-50 tab layout, and we'll close this. So now you can see we've our 50-50 tabs. You'll also notice that these 3 dots here, this is where we can reuse passages that we've created previously. So if I click on Find Existing Passage, I can see, well, I've only created 1 passage previously here, but all the passages you'd have ever created in your item bank will be in here, and you can just easily reuse them. You can select the checkmark box here, or if you're not sure if it's the correct passage, you can also preview it and read it here, and then you can select it once you're happy. But I'm going to delete this one. You can delete with the trash can icon, and you can edit with the pencil. So we're going to delete this because we don't want this today. Yeah, and that's everything on our item edit page. So now we want to go ahead and add in a question and a feature into our item. So we're just going to go back to our slides and just take a look at, we had a look at the item list. I'm creating an item. So now we're just going to look at what a question is. So in Learnosity, a question is an interactive widget that takes in a student response. We have over 60 different question types. They are a mix of auto and not auto scored. Most of the questions are auto scored, and the non-auto scored question types tend to be essay questions or questions where a student might have to draw freehand on an image. And it's also good to know that you can have more than one question, and you can have various different types of questions in an item. Items don't have to have the same question types in them if you don't want them to. And then when we talk about a feature, that is like a question in that you author it in the same way, you add it to an item in the same way, but it is there to enhance or improve an assessment. It doesn't accept a student response. So for example, that could be, as you see here, a passage of text or a video or an audio player. We have 8 feature types, and yeah, they've no impact on the student score. They don't affect the test outcome, nothing like that. They're just there purely as an enhancement. Okay, so we're going to take a look now. If I go back to the author site, we'll click this add new button to add a question or a feature. So you can see here, we have an overview of all of our different question types. And if we toggle at the top here, we can look at our features too. So we can see there's 8 features. And this is a passage here where we'd add our passage of text, video player, audio player, and so on. If we go back to questions though, you can see all of our different question types are grouped together in different categories. So with the author site as well, this is all customizable. We can customize any of this for you. You can change the names of these categories, you can change question template names, and you can hide options in the question editor, change defaults, that kind of thing. And we do have a webinar on that. We have a webinar playlist on YouTube, and we do have a webinar, it's the question editor webinar, and it goes into customization as well. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and author a multiple choice question. So if we look at this, you'll see the question editor and then the question editor preview screen on the right column. So all of our question types follow the same kind of rough template in the question editor. So at the top, you'll compose your question. You can see here you have this toolbar. Any field where there's a toolbar, you're able to add in things like, well, you can format the text obviously, but you can also add in images, you can add in some math using LaTeX or MathML. You can add in tables, and you can also embed videos and audio players as well. So for now, we'll just type in a simple question. So we'll just say, select all the European cities from the list below. Okay. And then we'll just set up our multiple choice options. So we'll just put in some city names. I can't spell Paris. Okay, and one more. So you can always click add to add a new response option. The trash can icon will always delete. If you'd like to have a specific order that these options appear in, you can also click and drag. Now we'll set our correct answers. And again, this scoring section is the same in all auto-scored question types. So first of all, you'll set up your points for the question. So I'll leave this at 1 point for now. At the moment, you can see as well that I can only select one response at a time, even though there are 3 correct answers there. So if I enable this multiple responses option, now I can select more than one option. So I'll select Paris and I'll select Rome as well. You can also shuffle options. So if I enable this, anytime this question is rendered on the screen, it'll render in a randomized order. The response options will render in a randomized order. So if you have a group of students in a room, they'll each get a randomized order of the questions, of the response options. Okay, so now we'll head into more options. We've kind of an advanced scoring section down here. So first you'll see the unscored / practice usage option. So if I click on that, all of the scoring on this question has been disabled. You can see the grayed out boxes there. And that's just useful for, exactly as it sounds, practice questions, anything where the student score or result doesn't matter. You also have a penalty points field. So whatever value I enter in here, that is the amount of points that I will be deducted for a wrong answer on a question. So, and it's every time so if I select 2 wrong answers in this question, I'll be deducted this value twice. Then we have the check answer button. So if I enable that, you can see a check answer button has appeared on the right column. So this will just tell me if my responses I select are correct or incorrect. It won't tell me what the correct ones are. It will just tell me whether what I've chosen is correct or incorrect. It provides no other feedback. And then I can also set how many times that button can be selected by the student. So if I select 1, and then use it, it's disabled now and I can't use it again. And then we have our scoring types, which is a really important part of the whole scoring setup. So we have 3 scoring types. Most of our questions have these scoring types. And exact match is usually the default scoring type. So in this question, exact match is the default. And that means that my question's worth 1 point. So if I have to get everything correct on this to get my 1 point. Even if I select Rome and Paris, I get no marks, and so on. I have to select the 3 correct answers. Whereas if I select partial match per response, I still have my 1 point value in the box up here, but now each correct answer is worth 1 mark. So this means I'll get awarded for every correct answer I give. So again, Rome, Paris, and Dublin, and I have 3 out of 3 now. And then we've partial match. So if I select rounding to none. Okay, so partial match, I have my 1 point in the points box here, but now the whole question is worth 1 mark, and each correct answer is worth 0.33 marks. So Rome, you can see here 0.333 out of 1, and so on till we get all of them correct. Okay, we'll change back to exact match. We have this new option underneath that, enable auto scoring. So what this is if I uncheck that box, all of the scoring disappears from the question, and this means that it needs to be teacher scored. So it just means now that any question type can be easily made not auto scored if you wanted to by just a simple option in the question editor. But it's always enabled by default on auto scoreable questions, so it's not something you need to worry about unless you want to disable it. And then lastly, in the scoring section, we have this minimum score if attempted option. And this will give the student attempt marks. So whatever value I enter in here, I will get awarded those marks for just attempting the question, even if my response is completely incorrect. And that's all of the advanced scoring options. There's never really any more than that in any of the question types we have. So then we have a very short layout section, which does vary depending on the question type. In multiple choice, we have 3 styles that we can pick from. So we have the standard style, which is the one we see with the question and the responses in a list. Then we have block. This is a great option for touch screens because if I just select anywhere on that row, it'll mark the whole option. And then if I select radio button under option, the checkbox just moves underneath each option rather than appearing in line. That's really the only difference there. So we'll go back to standard. I can also select how many columns my response options appear over. So by default, it's always 1, but we can change that to 2 or even 3. So you can see now. And then I've orientation as well. So if you'll notice here with vertical orientation, I see Rome, Paris, New York, Sydney, and Dublin. If I change that to horizontal, I see Rome, Sydney, Paris, Dublin, New York. So it just renders the options in a slightly different order. And then lastly, I can change the font size. So I can choose anything from small all the way up to huge. You can also configure these when you set up an activity as well. You don't have to do it in the question editor. In the activity editor, it's a global option, but it is there. And then we have this extra section at the bottom. So this is like a metadata section. Distractor rationale, rubric reference, and sample answer are all fields that need to be configured by your development team. And the reason just for this is that everyone likes to display these particular options differently. So we've just given everyone the option to customize it themselves. It's very simple to do, and if you have any questions about that, you can always contact us. But distractor rationale, the idea here is just a piece of feedback for the student when they select their answer, or a hint as well. Rubric reference and sample answer are basically, they're very similar. It could be some kind of feedback for the student in the form of an audio recording of the teacher speaking, telling the student their feedback, or a sample answer. It could be a PDF. But it's just important to know that you can't see what you enter in those fields reflected in the question editor preview. And it's the same with this distractors option down at the bottom. This is the very same as the distractor rationale, except you can just have as many of these as you like. So you can really customize the feedback rather than just have one generic line of feedback. It's also good to know that these are numbered, but they are not in any way tied to any of the response options. So distractor 1 is not tied to the first response option, which is Rome. They're just numbered for your convenience. Then acknowledgements, anything you enter in there will appear at the end of an assessment when the student hits submit. Whereas stimulus review only is, the idea here is just that it's a version of the question that will appear in review mode to a teacher or whoever is reviewing the test. And instructor stimulus is just some instructions that you might want the instructor to see when they're giving out the test, or maybe some instructions you want them to read out to the students. And that's it, that's our question. So we'll save that. And now we will just add in a feature. So we click on the blue add button again, and we'll go to features this time. And we'll go to video player. And here we have various video types that we can select from. So we can get a URL from either YouTube, Vimeo, or Brightcove, and we can just paste it in. You can also select a hosted video, so you can upload your own video as well. But we'll just select a YouTube video today. I just have one open here. So we'll paste that in to the source URL box. And then you can give it a heading. And you can also give it a summary, so it's just a kind of a subheading. Then you can set up the width and the height of the video container, and you can also set up a transcript. The transcript is just like the distractor rationale and those other fields, in that it would need to be configured by your development team. Again, just because then you have flexibility in how you want to display that. You can display whatever way you want. So we'll just click save on that. And now we can preview this item as the student would see it. If we go back to edit, we can actually change the location of the question and the feature as well. So if I click on this video, I can actually drag it over anywhere where there's a blue arrow. And the same with the multiple choice questions, I can just drag it over to this arrow here. So I've swapped the location of the two, and I can hit preview again to see how that will look. So just make sure you save all your work. So now we're going to just take a look at tagging. So we'll go back here. So tagging in Learnosity is mainly used to search and filter through items in an item bank, but more importantly, it's used to report on student performance. And this can be to a very specific level. The more tags you have on an item or on an activity, obviously the more specific you can get back the results in your report. So in Learnosity, we always use tags in the form of tag type and tag. So for example, you wouldn't just have English attached to an item as a tag, you'd have subject English. Subject is the tag type and English would be the tag. And as I mentioned, tags can be added to items, but they can also be added to activities. You wouldn't tag questions or features, you just tag items. And you can use the author site to do all of this. You can use the author site to add tags and remove them from items and activities. And you can also use the author site if you want to create new tag types, create new tags, or modify or delete them. So we'll go and look at the tag manager we have now. So if you go up to the nav bar at the top, you'll see tags. We'll just click on that. And we can see some pre-created tag types in here already. We can add a new tag type on the top right. All you do to add a new tag type, it's really simple. You just click on add tag type, you type in the name of your tag type, whether you want to use it in items or activities, you just select which box or maybe both, and then you just click create. It's very, very simple. I'll just go back and we'll add a new tag to one of our existing tag types. So we have a topic tag type here. So I'll just click on the ID next to that and I can see some tags I already have in here. So we'll just add another one for the item we just created. So we'll call that Europe and we'll click create. And we've created our tag. So we'll just make sure to save all of that. Now we're back to our tags page. Okay, so now we'll go back to our item bank and we can see our question or item that we just made. If I click on that, now I can go to this tags tab on the blue sidebar and I can add my tags. So we'll just add a subject tag. When you start typing, options will pop up, and the more you type, the more specific the options will get for tagging. So we'll do subject, geography, and we'll do topic, and we'll do Europe. Okay, and we can add as many tags as we want there as well. We're not limited to 2, and you can just delete them as you want with that X button next to the specific tag. Okay, and another thing, now that we're finished with this item and we're ready to add it to an activity, we can just change the status from unpublished to published. So we'll just go up to the details tab, which is right above tags, and we'll just change that to published. And we'll click save. Okay, that's perfect. So now we're going to just take a look at activities. So what we mean by an activity, as I've mentioned, is it's a selection of items presented to the student as a single assessment. So really it is just our term for an assessment. You create your activities in the author site using our activity editor. You can also preview the activity in the author site as well, so you can see it just how it will appear to the student as you're editing, just like you can in the question editor with the question editor preview. Activities can also be tagged, and you do this for the exact same reasons that you'll tag items, just for searching, for reporting. And activities also have statuses. They have the same statuses that items do: published, unpublished, and archived. And again, it's kind of the same thing. A published activity is ready to go, it's ready to be shown to a student, whereas unpublished is not, it's not complete. If I try to show a student an unpublished activity, if I try embed it on a page, the student will get an error on their page. And then we have archived as well, which is again just a soft delete. So we can always change the status back from an archived activity to published or unpublished if we want to. Okay, so we're going to just go in now and we'll create an activity. So we'll just click at the top here, we see activities, and we'll go into all activities. And we can see here we've no activities created in here, but just this would look like the item bank or the item list that we saw, but it would just have activities instead. So you'd see the activity reference or the activity name. You can also configure descriptions for your activities just to give a bit more context for your other authors as to what that activity is about. And then you'll have an icon here to indicate whether the activity is published, unpublished, or archived. And then when you have quite a large number of activities, you're able to search as well. So search by the activity reference, the description, the status, the tags, and so on. So if we want to add an activity, we'll just do so in the top right here. Just click add activity. And just like with items, we'll give our activity a meaningful name. So we'll just call it Geography Test 1. And we can also give it a description if you want to. We'll leave the status as unpublished for now, but we can change that when we're ready. And then you can see here we have the activity editor. Now there's a huge range of options in the activity editor. So we're actually going to do a separate webinar on the activity editor. We won't touch on them today, but I'll show you how to add items and how to tag your activity as well. So to add your items, you see this item list title here. Just go into the green add button and we'll get a pop-up box with all of the items we've created in our organization. So again, you can search through these just like you can your item bank, just like you can with your activities. And then when you see the ones you want, you just check the box beside them. You can see here as well, with activities, the status is indicated by a check mark or an X. So check mark is published, obviously, and an X is unpublished. So if I try add that test item that's unpublished to my activity, I just can't, it won't let me click it. So when we're happy with what we've selected, we just hit the select button. And now we can see that the items were added to our activity in the order that we selected them in the pop-up box. So if we're not happy with that order, we can just hold down the activity or the item that we want to move and just drag it around the page. And we can also delete the items with the trash can icon as well. So now we can preview what we have in the preview tab. You'll see click start when you're ready to begin. And if we hit start, we can see our questions. There's our question or our item that we created previously, and so on. And we click finish and we can submit that. So we can see the whole experience that the student will have. Then we can go along and tag it. So we'll hit this tags tab here as well, and we'll click add. And then we will add an activity or add a tag. So we'll subject, we'll pick geography, we'll pick some topics, Europe. Okay, now, and then just remember to click create, which is just save, same thing. Now, so now our activity is created. Now we can change the status as well to published since we're happy with it, and it's good to go. Okay. Now, so is there any questions? Cool. If there isn't any questions, what you can do is you can email authoring@learnosity.com if you have any follow-up questions. You can also email me, niamh.casey@learnosity.com, and you can also log a ticket in our support portal if you have access. Okay, so thank you so much for coming today. I'm so sorry about the fire alarm at the beginning again. Hopefully that was a one-off, it will never happen again. And we'll be in touch really soon about some more authoring webinars, some more specific ones. They'll be a lot less general than the one today as well. Okay, so thank you. Thanks, guys.